I feel like there's been such like an area that has been missed in boutique fitness, right? I think when you think boutique fitness, you think something very commercial. You think something that's just bright lights and gimmicky, and I feel like, you know, that does appeal to certain types of people. But for like the people that want style, a little more class, but want an effective workout, and still want that community aspect, you know, you walk into like a group training space and it's like, I can't see myself doing this consistently. But then you can walk into a space like the Yard that still gives that like kind of like a grungy gym feel, but you walk in and it's like you're walking into a spa, kind of very classy, like all the amenities. Like it's a space where you feel like you can see yourself coming in every day. But I think it's more so the style, everything about it, down even to the branding and all that. It just appeals to a certain person in San Antonio that I feel has been a little neglected because they're going to bigger box spaces and there's just not a space where they feel like is cool. You know what I mean?
In a way, it's kind of like, I mean, everything's big in Texas.
Yeah, for real.
But like with that comes this aspect of, and San Antonio as a city, from the design of the city, has this aspect of just vastness, right? Where there's just so much space, you know? And so to have a brand that's very targeted to a like specific audience, I think San Antonio has so many different niche like groups and audiences that other cities, it's very apparent, but here we're like in hiding, right? And so when you bring a brand like the Yard Gym, it appeals to, you know, there's people that have always been looking for something like it,
right?
Especially when it comes to the community aspect of
Everybody wants community. Everyone wants to be a part of something, right? And you know, sometimes they just want their own version of that, and I just don't feel like that version has been brought to light in San Antonio yet. And I also feel like I will take this fully to heart because I'm from San Antonio, born and raised, right? We don't ever get anything first, and I feel like I have to go to Austin or I got to go to places like Houston in order to feel like, okay, there's this really badass gym that I got to go out of my way to go to. And San Antonio just doesn't have that, like, it just doesn't have it, you know?
It's very, there's some trauma there, I think. When it comes to San Antonio, where it's like, we don't get things first.
No, but I feel like the community of San Antonio, like you have a lot of people that have been here their whole lives and like they're loyal to the space and the city, and it's growing rapidly. You know, it's a huge city where there's a lot of stuff going on. Just it's just so segregated. Like in Austin, everyone's kind of more so in the know. They know what's going on because the community there, especially with things like this, are very, like, it's just appealing to that network. In San Antonio, it's a little bit different. You know, there's so many things going on in different parts of the city. But when people find it and they love it, or, you know, it appeals to them in some type of way, they're so loyal to it. Because they're just like, that's just our culture, right? We're very, we're just a loyal culture of people. We want to feel like, you know, we have that sense of community somewhere in some place. And I also feel like, especially with this downtown location, if you look around, there's so many different apartment complexes that potentially interact with each other by drinking and eating good, but not healthy food, you know? So eventually you create this culture of bad habits. And I feel like this is really going to help generate a space where people can actively get better and improve together. So that sense of community will develop in a way where the energy is not based around, oh, do you remember how drunk we got last night? Or, oh my gosh, like I ate so much food, I feel like crap, or I'm gaining weight. You're coming to the Yard and you know, you're holding people accountable, you're going through an amazing workout, you're feeling good energy, which is going to translate into other parts of your life, like healthier eating habits, because you're working so hard, you want to maintain additional health. Your mental clarity, potentially when you're working as a freelancer or a creative or somebody who's trying to build their own business to their own empire. You know what I mean? It does tie into a lot of those type of perspectives. And it also does, you know, boil down to the people that do appreciate time, right? Like you're a busy individual. I'm a busy individual. Sometimes when I go to the gym by myself, I'm like, what am I going to do? I don't want to be here. You know? If you can come to a space that has some efficiency to it, that has a good energy, that has a solid look, like, you know, the apparel's nice, so you want to wear it and represent it. You know, it's going to help like with that additional convenience factor, and it's going to make ultimately you better in what your craft and what you're trying to do. Because I'm taking a huge stressing point around out of your space and out of your mental. And I'm providing you a space where you can let out a lot of that stress that you're probably harboring over trying to develop your own empire, or you know what I mean? But you come to a space where you know it's actively making you better, you know?
Yeah, and I think you touched on a couple things when it comes to community. The community aspect of it is very important because, something about, I mean, this is why our concepts are very similar, right? In this aspect, when it comes to Safehouse and the art, right?
Absolutely.
There's a lot of beautiful like overlap, because we're of the belief that the interface, right, of this, of like the community aspect is humans, right?
Right.
Is human. So like you can't just have a gym that has all the bells and whistles without anyone actually using those things with each other.
Yeah.
Right. So you can have these things, but I think there's kind of there's a big shift, I think, happening because with technology in general,
absolutely,
with like AI and like all this stuff is like that's not going anywhere. That's just going to get
it's
better or worse.
Creating a disconnect, right? So
it's creating a disconnect. Yeah.
And I think humans need humans,
totally,
100%. Yeah. And I love what you guys do, where you put like-minded humans in the same spaces, and they feel impactful. They feel a sense of like people need them. You create really solid connections where, hey, if I didn't meet you here, there would have been no other space where we would have initially connected in this type of way. And I feel like it's like you said, there's a lot of synergy, and there is a lot of like good overlap with what we got going on. Especially because, like I said, the community is going to be your biggest driver.
Massive.
We were just talking about this earlier, where we can create these incredibly cool aesthetic spaces, but people can leave those spaces without batting an eye, right? But they can't leave the people and the connections that they're making. Like that's what's hard to lose. It's what makes your business is that community aspect. And I feel like that's why, like, for me, that's where a lot of our success is going to come in. If we can develop and harbor that type of culture of people, and if we can master that to where it just retention and all that stuff just becomes evident,
that's huge.
It'll make us successful.
That's huge. And I think, you mentioned something else. You mentioned like Austin, right? Maybe some of these other cities. I think something that's beautiful about San Antonio is the diversity in the different groups, right, that we have here.
Yes.
Different interests. And you would kind of not think that of, I think, Texas in general, but I think that at this point, there's certain cities like, you go to Austin, there's a culture that's already been developed, of course, and well, they're a young city too, right? And so San Antonio, there's so much more. There's a lot of history here, and I'm really excited about the progress here because with concepts like the Yard Gym, right, that are popping up, where you can know the founders, right? Like you can know the people building it, and again, the interface is human, and it's a space for humans to be human, right?
Yeah.
Instead of like how it just, and I don't think it would even work here. And that's how powerful San Antonio is when it comes to community, because the Jalisco spot over by the east side gets way more traction than your new spots that are popping up at the Pearl, right?
True. Yes.
Because there's a lot of loyalty, and so. And the only reason for that is because at the end of the day, it's a space that allows for humans to be human and connect.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
Yeah, and it's like we love our nice things, right? But at the end of the day, you have an empty space, and if I have a connection with someone, and the space allows me to be human,
right?
I'd rather enter an empty space.
Oh, for sure.
And
I feel like a natural things that like humans initially want to feel is that sense of impact, right, and it is that sense of connection. And I feel like, especially with what we're doing, whether you're having communication with somebody and it's going well, and you're teaching that person something, or vice versa, you're getting something from it, like there's a high sense of impact. So it allows like it's I don't know, you have this sense of a small sense of accomplishment, right? And I think when you start to really feel that consistently, it allows you to want to continue to keep feeling that, right? And you feel like, okay, I have a sense of importance here for some way, shape, or form, right? And
and purpose,
for sure. Oh, that's a big one, yes. But that's another reason why me and my fiance are like so big on being owner operators, because we can step back and we can get an amazing staff and everything. But in my previous experience, like, the most impact I have, which is actually allowing me to create a lot of noise with what we're doing here, is that human interaction that I had with people.
100%.
When I was working with my former business, people knew what it was, but people more so knew like, oh, I remember when I took Chastity's class, or when I met Chastity, or you know, I love Chastity's team, and my name was always associated with it, which is great, you know, and that's exactly what I wanted to make. But it was because I was present and I was putting myself in the trenches. I was working out with my community. I ensured I knew everyone's name, and I knew something about each person because I listened, or I made a potential impact on that person. So my influence with a lot of the people that were coming into my space was so impactful that it's now transitioning them to say, you know what, oh, I know what she provides. I want to, what is she doing next? I'm willing to sign up. And
what's that powerful thing that we call rapport?
Yeah, there you go.
And it's like, you know, people know you, and this is, you know, we've seen kind of this change where you have individual brands, right? You have Elon Musk that has more followers than, you know, these corporate entities, right? It's like, you know,
he bought him.
Yeah, exactly. Totally.
He bought him.
He bought him through, but it just kind of, there is a massive shift in kind of how you brand these things.
Oh, absolutely.
At the end of the day, like, you're a vessel to the vision of what you're building.
Love that.
And that entity you're following, right? If you break that, then you know, things start to break.
You're the energy of your space. Right? And it's with anything that if somebody is trying to be at their own personal brand, like, it's true. You are the representation. 100%. You are everything that your brand is, and nobody's going to believe in it if you don't believe in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. People feel it, right? I think you touched on something else that I think is important when it comes to the San Antonio landscape of options, of like diversity of experiences, the things that it seems that we're not allowed to, or we don't have the permission to enjoy here or create. You know, there's San Antonio, you know, there's like pockets of energy, right? And, you know, there's a lot of magnetism towards certain things. And it feels like when you're building stuff that's new, you kind of are climbing uphill a little bit, right? Like, it takes a little bit you have to push the narrative a bit, right? And like, we love to have fun here. It's a really great time. But there's a lot of there's a heavy drinking culture.
Oh, eating and drinking culture.
Eating, drinking, and so it's not pushing against that. It's just adding more options, like adding more diversity. Right?
I like to say adding more resources. I don't think we have enough in San Antonio for how big of a city that we are. And I'm not saying we need to be 100% like Austin or Houston, where we have,
and that's the beautiful
super saturation, you know?
That's the beautiful thing about San Antonio is culture, and that, like, we can have more of, we can have a bit more of that diverse, like, culture, right? Versus, like, you know, there's like the stereotype Austin, you know, Austinite, just you know,
full on
walking, running, like, there's more, you know, spaces like the parks and all that stuff, which I think San Antonio, you know, we're
working on it
to develop. We're working
on it.
But I think there's a lot more groups and pockets, different interests. You know?
Very, and like, I love how it's grown. I will say I haven't seen San Antonio this active in a long time, with all the running groups and everything going on. But that's what I'm saying. When you create the resources, they will come.
Right, because that was even the initial belief that we had with Safehouse. In that, you know, I just wasn't of the belief that the people were not here. I just think we just didn't have a space. That's all.
It's true.
Like a space and environment wasn't created or designed for it yet.
And I think that's a beautiful thing too, though, because you kind of get to be the first. And I don't want to say manipulate the market, because it's you're just creating your own standards to what you feel is kind of lacking. And I think that's great, because you don't have to worry about, like, somebody's going to think I just copy and pasted this other product. And it's like, no, if you find something where, I mean, even with what we got, that's new and fresh. And if you personally, like, you know, as much as we love to say it, I don't know if anybody thinks like me, San Antonio is such a huge city. Like, there's millions of people, not even just like a couple hundred, millions of people that live here. And I just think that when they're here, it's kind of like they're wanting it. But the resources just aren't there, and it's not appealing to them. Like, let's go out and get drunk and you know, create these tour, because we have some of the best food in Texas. Like, honestly, San Antonio's got incredible like Michelin star restaurants and the Pearl District. Like, you have all these things where it involves a bit more of like that social eating and drinking, which we love to do. We're social people by nature.
Yeah, of course.
But there's nothing like really like with what you guys are building, and even to our extent, where you have the ability to do all of that, but without being so harsh to your body, you know? And I think when you kind of start to establish that type of culture where, you know, we're providing you mentally, physically, like spiritually, emotionally, all those additional things. It doesn't always have to be like this consistent culture of, we had a great time last night. You know, I wanted to go try this restaurant. Not saying that those things, you can't do those things, but if you involve your life with a little bit more, you know, consistency and development of just better bodies, better minds, everything, it'll trickle down to some extent. I mean, granted, as much as I want to change the whole city overnight, we can't do that. But that was one of the main factors of like, even with my expansions with my former business and this is like, I know there is a need for it because I've seen it. You know what I mean? And I've interacted.
Like, I think we've been in it too.
Absolutely.
Right?
Exactly.
Like and I think that's the other reason why, you know, both our concepts when it comes to the community aspect, when it comes to the mind, body, soul, spiritual aspect of all of it, you know, we're trying to build something that from the inside out changes the city.
Right.
And I think that's the only way that you can do it in San Antonio. And it's definitely clearly something we're passionate about. Like we're both from San Antonio.
For sure.
And we want to see the city elevate.
I think that's beautiful too. I think because the San Antonio has always felt neglected. I think when you have two San Antonio natives that just come through and they're like, we're going to do big things. San Antonio becomes very proud of it. I will say the immense amount of support that I've gotten, I'm sure you've gotten as well. Once you say you're from San Antonio, they're just like, really? Like, it's just like, there's just like an open arms, like hug, like, you know, we're so proud of you type of feeling, you know? And I think that there is a lot of talent and a lot of amazing things coming out of San Antonio.
Oh yeah, for sure.
It's just, like I said, not much in the knowing just yet, you know, because people are starting to attack, even from San Antonio, want to attack Austins and Houstons because they feel like the market would just do so much better when it's like, dude, you know this place better than anybody else, you know, and the community is insanely supportive if you allow it to be, you know, if you're open to allowing it to be supportive, it will be supportive. Yeah.
So what's next?
Well, in life or in business, there's a lot going on. No, we're gearing up to open up our first location, which is the Alon, kind of how I told you. Different vibe, but still its own little beast. You know, I think it's been really cool to see that one come together. It's over there out in the Castle Hills area, so definitely we're going to attack a little bit more of the suburban lifestyle type of people. But in my opinion, like it's I can already see that culture just killing it, that community killing it. It's going to be great. This one here will be opened up mid-April. You know, this one's going to have all your additional bells and whistles. So like, that's why I'm really excited to be doing this collective partnership with you guys, because I feel like this is going to appeal to a lot of the people that come to your space because we have the additional things like the sauna cold plunge. You know, we're going to have that extensive, like the Pilates classes and things like that.
Which is so hard to find, by the way.
Yes, all in one place. Trust me.
Absolutely no saunas.
Yes, no saunas. Exactly. So we're going to be able to create a space of convenience, but like for those like-minded type of individuals. But we, you know, we want to extend that community, and we're going to provide things like those sauna cold plunges to train and teach people to use different methods to help them improve. Right. And I think I think I even took you on a sauna cold plunge day.
That's incredible.
And I was like, let's try this out. Contrast therapy.
I was like,
and it's, you know, it's not something like, it's not the most fun. It's not the most glamorous, but it's one of those things where it's like, you're in the grind day to day, and sometimes you need something that's just going to help you release and build this sense of resilience. And I was really glad that you were able to do that. I was like, man, he's probably going to kill me if he's never done this before. But you know what? He was down. Let's do it.
The club is over.
Yes, I'm dying. I'm leaving. But no, I think we're just excited about the next steps of opening. I literally less than a month from now, man, you'll see these places popping. So I'm very excited about that.
I mean, the energy, right? Like everyone's, you know, it's been like the talk of the town, right? Like people are talking about it and excited for it and stuff. And, we've been, of course, through Safehouse, like through the community talking about it as well. And everyone's super excited. There's a lot of Safehouse members moving downtown. They're going to be very close, you know, close by. And we're super excited.
I'm really excited about the collaboration and the synergy that you guys are going to bring here and what we'll be able to do for your people as well, just in a different environment, right?
And it really gives Safehouse too. I mean,
1000%.
So
when you said that, I was like, gold, love it. He said he likes it. It's good for me.
Let's run it.
Because you got style, man. So I'm like, if you say you like the style, I'm like, okay, we're doing